Okay.
We're gonna start with the beginning. Where were you born?
In Harlem.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you grew up in the streets of Harlem?
Yeah. How you
Well, I
know?
mean, I hate to say in the streets.
I did grow up in the streets of Harlem though.
Uh-huh.
Cause in the decade that I was a teenager, it was the '80s,
Ah, okay.
and actually I was just maybe 2 blocks
Oh, really?
away from here. Lionel Hampton,
Yeah.
the short building, Lionel Hampton.
Yeah.
Then you got the real tall one.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got another one across the street. So me and my family, we was the first tenants in Lionel Hampton actually.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, because we had a brownstone and they tore the brownstone down to build Lionel Hampton.
There you go. Yeah.
And so we were the first people in Lionel Hampton, which is like 2 blocks.
What music were you listening to at that time, Wes?
Everything. I was listening to Billy Ocean, I remember.
Yeah, oh my God.
I was listening to Luther Vandross. I was listening to Loose Ends, Junior. Late '80s, I was listening to God.
Oh, you're a guy, yeah.
Which is,
That was like moving into the 90s.
Nah, like God came out in like the late '80s.
Yeah, okay.
Like 88, 87, 88.
Yeah.
Something like that. And Teddy was also from St. Nick Projects, which is
Right there.
right there as well.
Yeah. So, who would you say were your inspirations?
Musically,
Yeah.
or just in general?
Well, in general also, because the people in general have a way of pushing you into your pathway as to what you want to do.
Yeah. I was a kid who was trained in the arts, acting, dancing, music. What else? Because I used to act in a lot of plays actually when I was younger. Like I was trained to be an actor, and my first ambition was to be a movie star basically.
You wanted to be a star.
Well, I was, because when I was in the plays, a lot of times I was starring in the plays. I always stood out because I always had my own, approach, my own way of doing things. No fear in terms of like being in front of an audience, because I had so much experience, for being young and performing on the stages of Lincoln Center, the Felt Forum at Madison Square Garden, Lake Placid. And all of my instructors were all professional people from the industry, so I was always like a favorite of a lot of my teachers.
So, did you want to be a music artist at one point?
No,
Interesting.
actually. I got into the music side because a lot of my friends was doing it, and I was hanging out with them, and I go to the studio, and I see them writing and stuff, and I was always impressed with like the art of writing and producing songs. But I was a fly on the wall, Like I said, some of the friends like I used to go to sessions with was like one was Daddy-O from Stetsasonic. After Stetsasonic had disbanded, Daddy-O went on to become a producer, and he produced a lot of big records. He produced Top Billing, Milk, Milk D, I believe the rapper's name. Yeah, that record Top Billing was sampled by Mary J. Blige and a lot. It's like one of the most sampled records in hip hop, actually. Top Billing. Me and Daddy, he did that. He did a lot of stuff. He was instrumental in D'Angelo in the beginning, Erykah Badu,
All right, so yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that progression.
Yeah, him and Kedar Massenberg.
Oh, I remember Kedar. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
they had a company called Okie Dokie Music.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this brownstone in Brooklyn, and they had a studio in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was signed to Okie Dokie Music in 1991.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And the way that came about, I was on a plane going to California on my way to Quincy Jones's house.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time, my mentor's name was Gene Davis. He was a television producer.
I kind of remember that name.
Yeah, he was an independent television producer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He used to be at Essence Television.
There you go. Yeah.
Unity World, was an executive there.
Yeah.
And so one day Gene said to me, I'm doing this documentary called Images and Realities of African American Men. And it was a documentary about the images of black men and then the realities of black men. You know, the everyday black man.
Yeah.
The mailman, the lawyer, the doctor, you know. And so the image part of it was Black Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So just about every black male in Hollywood was a part of this documentary, actually. You know, and so Quincy Jones was one of them, one of the people involved in the documentary. And Gene just cut me a check and he was like, bring me back the theme song for my show. So I wrote the theme song, I rapped on it, and just like that, I was like involved with doing music for television.
Now,
When I was like 20.
the role of a producer, because I used to have this conversation because I worked with some whack producers in the past. But I had seen this clip of Whitney Houston, and she was just basically saying, I produce myself. You know, she's like, I do my work beforehand, come in and just knock it out. But that kind of renders a producer to an engineer, almost. And I'm just wondering, how does that work with you? Because you're a producer, so what do you see the role of a producer?
Well, when you have like people like Kashif and people like Narada Michael Walden doing records for Whitney Houston, her saying I produce myself is kind of like, yeah, okay. You know, because these guys are like
Major
iconic producers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I respect her confidence in knowing who she was as an artist, because one of the jobs of a producer is to help you find out who you are, what your voice is, what your sound is.
And that's basically what she was saying. I don't need that, I got it. That was kind of where she was coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
But not everybody's a Whitney. There are people that need help.
Right. But even Whitney needed guidance. You know, but once she got that, you know, that
Formula.
that that she was able to run with it. Yeah, producers like a director who directs a film, because you're responsible not only for the vocalists, you're responsible for the musicians and their performances. You're responsible for the engineer and what they're doing. You're responsible for how the mix comes out and all that. So there's a lot of different people that you have to direct.
Right.
You know, when producing a finished product, there's a difference between a beat maker and a producer. I'm a producer in terms of like I deliver a finished product. Where a beat maker, he might just send a beat to an artist and the artist takes it from there.
All right.
They go, they do the vocals and everything, and then they send you some money for the beat that you sent them. You know, I don't do that. I'm hands-on.
What do you think as far as ego? Because I've worked with some producers, especially in London, who had huge egos that really didn't give a shit about the vocalists. They were more so into like showing who they were on the record. And of course it makes bad records, but I just never understood that mentality.
Those type of people, I don't think that they're gonna be successful, because like I said, as a producer, everybody has to shine on the record, you know.
You have to make a good record.
Right, everybody. You know, the singer, the rapper, the musicians, the engineers, the mastering, everybody, has to perform at a high level in order for you to make a great finished product. Right. Because a mix can mess up a great song too.
Oh no, definitely.
So every aspect of it, has to be done on a tier that's A1, and someone who comes into the studio who's doing one part of the whole thing and think that that's the most important thing and they don't care about the vocalist or whatever, that's not someone to be taken seriously in this art form.
Yeah, well, that's what ended up happening. I didn't take them very
Right, those kind of people just, if you're gonna, why don't you just put out instrumentals if that's how you feel. You know what I'm saying?
Really? It would make more sense.
Yeah, just do instrumentals. And then you could just do whatever the hell you want to do.
They was just like wanting to just throw the vocal on there. And it was just like, that makes no sense.
Nah.
Yeah. How do you define your sound? What's your sound? Do you have a particular sound?
I think I do.
I could tell you from what I've listened to what I think your sound is.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
I think your sound is full. I think your sound is rich. I think your sound embodies. It really embodies a whole. I'd say a movement, but it just encaptures like it's whole.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting you say that because like I usually go to Quad recording studio in Times Square. That's my go-to studio. And every time engineer pulls up a session and he sees like 30, 40 tracks, they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's full.
Like, wow. It's been so long since I had a session, that I can actually sit down and mix and.
But you're kind of old school in that respect. You really get in it.
Yeah, but it's crazy to me to hear that because a lot of the major artists nowadays, they're doing vocals over a 2-track.
Yeah.
Like I said, somebody sent in a track and then they go in and they lay their vocal on top of it.
Right.
And then that's it. So there's no real depth.
Right, and that's what I get with your production is depth.
Yeah, there's depth, there's character.
Substance. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I'm like saying, I'm thinking, is it too much? I don't know because like nowadays it doesn't seem like it's necessary. But I'm not trying to keep up with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. See, and that's the whole thing nowadays.
Right.
That's the operative word. Nowadays, it is like a lot of bullshit out there.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's just 2-track and a voice on top of it.
Right. And the art form is lost. And another part of the art form that is lost is everything is now online. The art form of making an album, reading the credits, the actual artwork itself, all that stuff is gone now. Yeah. But it's coming back.
I hope so.
It is because vinyl is making its way back.
I know they're selling these record players. Yeah. And I'm getting one.
You should.
I got a whole. My mom.
Yeah.
She moved out of her house, sold her house, and we had all these albums from when I grew up. I mean, I have old Billie Holiday albums, like some really valuable stuff.
Where'd you grow up in?
I grew up in Queens. I grew up in Queens, but I'm like 10 years older than you.
Yeah.
Or more. And so when you went to Europe, I had already been in Europe and left.
Yeah. My first time in Europe was in '90 though.
Right. See, I went like in '80s, very early '80s.
Yeah, but I didn't work when I first went. My first trip to Europe, I went to visit somebody, and she was in the business. She was a big actress at the time on a show called The EastEnders.
Oh yeah, EastEnders. Yeah, of course. I used to watch that living in London. Yes.
Oh, you know who Michelle Gale is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she played Hattie on EastEnders.
Yeah, Hattie.
Yeah, that was my girl at the time. I met her in New York, and she told me she was an actress, and she said, "Come see me in England." I said, "All right." When I got there, I was like blown away because I didn't know that she was a star.
Yeah, because EastEnders is it's still running.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And so she's also in Harry Potter. She's in all that stuff now. But when I went to England, she was working on an album at that time, and she was working with Narada Michael Walden. and he made a hit record for her called "Your Sweetness." And so I got a chance to be around Soul to Soul and Omar.
See, I came in when Soul to Soul was just kind of, because a friend of mine was dating one of them.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my band, like, we need to work with these guys. And they were like, no, we're not that kind of band. And I thought that was one of the biggest mistakes they made. Because it would have added an extra layer to our sound.
Right.
But they didn't see that.
But I spent about a month in England.
So what would you consider your highlights? Like
my highlights?
Yeah.
I've had a few. Well, in America, my highlights were, like I said, being involved with this show that came on NBC primetime. You know, writing the theme song and rapping the theme song. You can actually find that documentary on a channel called Real Black on YouTube.
Real Black? Okay, yeah. YouTube, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, Images and Realities of African American Men. It was a 4-part series, actually. And so I scored, I think, maybe three of those shows. Cool. Yeah, each one was 2 hours, you know. That was a highlight for me. And then when I got in '98, I got an opportunity to go to Paris and produce for Columbia Records. They flew me out there to work on a group called KDD. I did the album that's called the Resurrection album. Yeah. Their first album had flopped, so they flew me out to Paris to work on their second album to make sure it didn't flop. So I didn't understand why they wanted me to do it, but I'm like, okay, cool. You know, we negotiated everything and went out there, and immediately it became a success. It's a classic now, that album. And after the end of 30 days of working on that record, I got a call from a new age artist named Jean-Michel Jarre.
Of course, yes.
And he said he heard the Resurrection album and he wants me to work on a project with him. And so I didn't understand why he wanted me to do it, because I never heard of him. New age is not my thing, you know. And so anyway, we worked it out. Actually, I want to mention that I traveled over there with Avon Marshall when I went to Europe. He came over and he programmed a lot of the stuff, you know, because Avon is a great keyboard player and arranger and all that. So me and Avon worked together. So Avon came over there with him. He was working with Diddy before he was working with me. And when I paid him for the KDD project, he was surprised. And he was like, wow, he said, I never made this much money before. So then I was like, damn.
I'm trying to stay away from that.
I was like, damn. So I should have, you know, okay. Anyway, I was, you know, I felt like I was being fair. I'm just kidding, yo.
I'm really trying to like back away from that.
I worked out the deal with Jean-Michel Jarre, and then I produced something called Oxygen in the Ghetto. Featuring that dude from KDD and a rapper from New York called Trigger the Gambler. At the time, he was like one of the hottest rappers in New York City. He was on Def Jam, and he had a record out with his brother called Broken Language, and that was like one of the hottest hip hop records. So I put Trigger on the record, and that dude did the chorus in French. Trigger did the verses in English, and the content was something that I didn't think he was going to appreciate, because it talked about New World Order and all that stuff. A lot of stuff that I didn't think he was going to want to promote or whatever. And so anyway, when he heard it, he loved it, and then he performed in front of 600,000 people.
There you go.
In front of the Eiffel Tower, and that was like a huge moment.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't there, I should have been there. But back then I was doing my work and then going home. I wasn't trying to be friends. I wasn't trying to hang out. Or nothing like that. But I found out after the fact, you know, that he had performed it, and you know, then, you know, Huffington Post wrote a big piece about my history with that kind of stuff. So that was cool. Yeah, so that was a highlight. And then another highlight was because I was also on the R&B side in France, and I did a record with Mark Middleton from Blackstreet and another singer named Vibe, and we did a song called "Tonight Is the Night," and that song ruled the radio for like about a year.
Wow.
So, you know, being in Paris, hopping in cabs, being in the galleries, Lafayette, just in restaurants, and hearing my music on the radio.
No, it's huge. Rotation, yeah.
That was a great feeling.
Yeah.
You know, and that became a classic. At the time, Mark had just got kicked out of Blackstreet when they had the Another Level album, which had sold like 6 million. It was like the biggest group in the world at the time. And Mark got kicked out of the group. And so then I took him over to France because he was kicked out and blackballed in America because he had went and got a solo deal. And when Teddy Riley found out about that, he shut all that down.
Yeah.
And so so I took him over to Europe to work. And so we did that. And then after that, I did another album called the Kimberlite Compilation with a lot of American artists, people like Christopher Williams. Mark was on the album. I did a record again. I did a record with Michelle Gale from England on that record, and we paired American artists with French artists.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was Vibe and Mark Middleton, Michelle and a rapper named Posse. Das Effects was on the record.
Das Effects.
Yeah,
Never heard that name.
Das Effects was on the record. Christopher Williams in China. Now I sent you that record. That's on YouTube.
Yes.
And it said Will Roberson China featuring Will Roberson. That wasn't me singing though.
Ah, okay.
That's Christopher Williams actually.
Oh, all right now.
The reason why they credited me as the singer on it is because they had lost the contract that Chris signed.
Oh.
So the producer was like, well, since fucking Will's on, he wrote it, whatever. So they put me featuring China, you know. So I was like, whatever.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is, you know.
So what are you presently working on?
I'm doing some music with Gemini, the Gifted One.
Ah, nice.
Me and Gemini are childhood friends. We went to high school together, so I know him a long time. Gemini is one of the best underground rappers to ever do it, actually. He is the reason why Gnarls Barkley became a group.
Yeah.
And then they became a thing, the biggest group in the world at one time.
Yeah.
CeeLo and Danger Mouse. Danger Mouse's first album was with Gemini.
Cool.
The first album was called Ghetto Pop Life. It came out in 2000.
Yeah, because Gnarls Barkley went huge.
Biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
CeeLo blew up. Huge.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, he was already big from his group, but solo wise, CeeLo.
Yeah.
Blew up. Yeah. So Ghetto Pop Life came out in 03. And just as that album came out, Gemini had to go do a 3-year prison stint. So he wasn't able to promote or capitalize on the release of Ghetto Pop Life. And that the first single was a song called What You Sitting On, featuring CeeLo and Gemini and Danger Mouse and the Alcoholics. And so while Jim was in jail, CeeLo and Danger Mouse got together again and they created Gnarls Barkley.
Okay. That makes sense.
Right. And so Gnarls Barkley blows up, becomes the biggest group in the world. Danger Mouse becomes the biggest producer in the world. And
Gemini's on ice.
He's sitting watching it. Right? So he comes home in like 06 and he has a meeting with Danger Mouse to see if they could work out something to do another record. They wasn't able to work it out. Gemini wanted the same amount of money as Danger Mouse, and at this time, Danger Mouse was.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Right, he wasn't the same guy that he was 3 years earlier, so they wasn't able to work it out. So when they didn't work that out, then I said to Gemini, I said, all right, well, we'll do a project together. So you know, so I did a deal with Gemini, and we put together an album, and I promoted the album heavily. Double XL, full page ads, posters all around the city for months and all that. And it was a very anticipated album, but I didn't think that Gemini mentally was in the right frame of mind for me to release the record. So I never released it. Yeah.
So do you plan to?
Well, we already started that process.
All right, good.
And it goes back to what you were saying, what we were talking about earlier. My style of production isn't anything that is trendy or what's going on at the moment. So I try to create something that's timeless, timeless art.
Yeah,
basically.
And yeah, because even the stuff that I heard with Jean-Michel Jarre, yeah, it's now.
Yeah, if you listen to it, it's like, oh shit.
Or with the guys,
and we're talking about, right.
It's all now.
Right. Well, you know, part of my issue is I'm usually like way ahead of what's going on. You know, and when you're way ahead of what's going on, people a lot of times they're not gonna get it until like 10 years, you know, 15 years later.
Definitely. I've been in that.
But at the same time, when I was doing those records, I also looked at it as an investment. So I'm like, you know what, I'm investing in this music, but it doesn't matter when I put it out.
Well, see, but that's where the integrity comes in.
Right.
You know, and that's what I really respect.
Thank you.
Because, you know, somebody be like, I need to make some money.
Right.
I need to make it now, and if it ain't making money, forget about it.
Listen, I spent a lot of money investing in this work, right? And for me, what's important is that I do the best work that I feel like I can do, and I try to put something that's gonna make you think, make you learn and grow, and slightly be entertained. The problem with the industry now is the entertainment aspect of it. It's so taken over by the entertainment that we forget about. Oh, let's put some information in there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's very true.
So I try to interject information in there, so when people are listening, and
we need more producers, artists, consumers, people that are looking for a message.
Yes.
Because that's the only way we can really change what's going on, is through a message.
Well, art should reflect the times that you're living in. To
and
me, that's
scary right now what they're reflecting, because it's reflecting a lot of just nothing.
Yeah. I mean, but that's all by design.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, they want to dumb the people down.
Yeah.
And keep you entertained and all that. You know, while they, you know, going out the back door with the bricks of gold.
It goes from the government, the music, it's everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so they keep you occupied, keep you distracted,
keep you dancing.
Right, while they walking out the back door with
all the goods.
Yeah. And by the time you realize it, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, like what happened? You know.
So what are your plans for the future?
Oh, well, I'm just gonna keep on doing what I do. I'm gonna drop regardless if the world ends like in the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna drop something the day before.
All right.
Maybe even the day of.
Put it in a capsule, send it out there.
I'm gonna keep dropping regardless, no matter what's happening. I'm gonna drop some fly stuff, and I'm gonna drop it on a high level regardless. You know.
I feel you.
That's what I'm gonna keep doing.
So, very last question. What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy is in the people that I've helped over the years. I've helped a lot of people over the years, bro, and it's not something that I like to talk about.
Sure.
You know, because I wasn't doing it to talk about it, you know, one day or get any recognition for it, but it would be nice to see, you know, people
win.
To
see people win. I like to see people win.
I want to see them say, you know what, Will, he did this for me, or he taught me that, or, because I've done stuff to help people's lives, And like I said, I didn't do it for the recognition. I did it because I know what it's like to be out here by yourself, on your own, not having a support system.
Yeah.
And in my life, the real people in my life have been the ones like my mentor, Gene Davis, who, when I never had a track record of music or anything that I've ever done before, say to me, here's some money, bring me back some music, and I know you can do it, right?
Yeah.
In other words, people have offered me opportunities where I'm like, why me? Because I've never done this before. But to have someone believe in you makes you believe in yourself.
That's true.
It's people you look up to. If they believe in you, and it helps you believe in yourself. I want to leave some work on this earth that when people listen to it 100 years from now, they go, wow, they can really see what was happening.
But also you can hear it in the music. Your legacy is in the music. And like I said, it garners respect. And that's the thing that I come away from dealing with you. Respect.
Appreciate that, That's all. I respect the art, the art form. I don't want to shortchange anyone who listens to my work. So, I hope that, like I said, this new music that I'm putting out right now with Gemini, the Gifted One, we got a song right now called Rise. And that's streaming like very well. I put it out like 3 weeks ago. We got like almost 3,000 streams in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting there. I'm not promoting it. We did do a video, so the video will be out there soon. And we do have an album, that will come out soon as well. So, I'm just having fun with it, man. It's art. I love it.
And it's who you are.
It's who I am. Exactly. And so I just hope that people enjoy what I do, man, because I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun with it.
There you go. And that's all that matters.